Hi everyone and welcome. This is Elena and I'm back today with another card video. This video is part of a blog hub between My Sweet Petunia and Right at Home Stamps. And actually in this video I'll show you how to make not one but few cards with like inlaid die cut windows, and as well at the end I will show you how to do some masking in order to condense the sentiment when you try to build up a sentiment from two or more stamps. So let's get started. First, I'm gonna stamp the sunflower, and it has several parts. So I'm starting from the darker yellow, and then I'll go the lighter yellow, and then the green, the leaves. So it's kind of backwards from what the directions on Right at Home stamp said, but I found out that this one worked for me. So here I'm stamping several pieces because for each card I need two stamp panels. So with the MISTI I'm able to stamp them exactly in the same place. So when we do that die cut window, the bottom and the top part match. So next I'm lining the second layer. So I'm just trying to position. It's a little bit harder to see through the yellow. If you want, you can, apologize for my head, not hand. You can stamp first with like darker ink, then layer it, and then kind of switch your paper. So next I'm going with the lighter yellow here. And I'm using here Altenew inks. I have everything listed in the description of the video. I have all the supplies there. So I'm continuing to stamp those on all of my panels. And then by the end of the video, like somewhere in the second half, you will see that I have as well with orange. So I kind of skip that part where I stamp with the orange, so you're not bored watching me stamp over and over again the same thing. So I'm kind of heat setting this before I go with the green layer. So the inks, if they're not dry, so they don't start bleeding into each other. So I have nice and crisp image. So for the I'm positioning here my grid sheet and to see if it's layered properly. So I kind of stamped on that grid sheet. You can do the same, and I stamped with darker ink so it's easily visible. And I'm using for the green, I'm using Catherine Pooler design inks. So I'm just continuing stamping all of those. And again, I have all the ink colors listed in the description of my video as well on my blog. So next I'm going with the center, and I'm using Espresso and Mocha from Altenew. So I'm again using that great transparency to see the exact position when I stamp it so I don't ruin my panels. So this is the first layer, and the second layer will be darker. So I'm stamping here twice because I wanted a little bit darker image. So in the last two I did like a little bit lighter. So after that I'm stamping those little circle stamps that go around the center of the flower. And again I'm using this transparency to see the exact positioning if I need to correct the positioning of my stamp, because on top of the yellow it's harder to see than when stamping with darker colors. So that kind of helps. You can use any, like you can even use vellum paper if you would like to, but transparency is much easier to see through where you have the stamp image. So I'm just repeating everything for each of my panels. So next I'm going with the next one. So So if you go on to a Right at Home Stamps website, you will see the point for lining up of the stamps. So from there, I kind of marked my stamp set. And I know in the video it's harder to see how to line them up, but if you go on the website right at home, you will be able to see exactly how to line them up. So I'm done with the flower, now I'm stamping the stems. And I'm repeating the same process for each card, and next are the leaves. So I'm using, again, I'm using grass skirt, and the other one was lime Rickey and melon ice. So those are the three colors that I use for the stem and the leaves. And all of those for the green ones are from Catherine Puller Designs. So next I'm stamping the last step, the little veins of the leaf. So we're done here. So next I'm trying to decide which sentiment I wanted to use. So I'm using the matching die cut. I'm just using the outline. So first I stamped, and that will be die cut, so it won't be stamped right there. So and I'll die cut it from black cardstock. So I'm just applying some sticky adhesive, and I'll run both panels through my big shot. So I have that blessed there. Just put it aside, and here is my panel that's on the bottom. I have the die cut. On the bottom I have the whole panel, on top I have the die cut panel. So next I'm using a black strip of cardstock that I'll stamp this rest of the sentiment. And then I'm embossing it with white embossing powder. And then I'll just trim the ends and adhere that to the top of my card. So next I'm using a rectangle die to cut both panels in one. So I adhere them both together and cut them both. So when I position them on top of one another, the flower underneath and then one on the top will exactly match. So here we have that one. Next I'll just adhere this little sentiment on the black cardstock and then just adhere to my note card, and I'm using some fun foam to add dimension. And for the last finishing touches, I just used some Nuvo black drops. So here I have the more of the panels where I stamped them in orange hues. So I adhere them with repositionable adhesive together, and I'll just position the dice and the rectangle dice where I want to be cut. And 2 by 2 I'll run them through my big shot. So I'm using my MISTI, the corner of my MISTI, to kind of line them up, and I'm using the same corner that I used to line them up when I was stamping them. So that way I know that they're exact match. So I'm just trying to position which dice and which rectangle infinity dice I wanted to use. So by magic of YouTube, I have everything die cut, so I have 2 of each. I'm kind of temporarily adhering them so I can adhere the sentiment or stamp the sentiment underneath. So here I die cut this thank you, and I did it twice. So the top layer, I'll just remove all the excess cardstock of it, kind of adhere it to my craft mat, and I'll apply some Versamark and then clear embossing powder and emboss it. This will add some dimension and some shine to the sentiment, to the die cuts. So I'm just quickly heat setting that, and then I'm adhering it on the second layer. So I'm using some Ranger Multimatte Medium and some micro applicators to adhere those together, and then I'll use the same adhesive. Actually, I have on the back the stick it adhesive, but if you don't have, you can use the same one to adhere it onto your card. So I'm just adding those together, and when you adhere two together, you have even better dimension. So now I'll use some foam adhesive and kind of pop that top layer up. So I'm just adding little pieces there so that sentiment that's curved, it's stays secure. So I'm using the corner of my MISTI to align both layers. So just turn it around, and I'm gonna adhere the second layer. Not the second layer, but the second half. So there we have that. It's pretty much done. I'm just scoring my black card base, and I'll adhere the panel onto it. So now we have the second one. So I'm just adding this one. I'll stamp and emboss. So I applied some embossing butter, not butter, but embossing body powder for anti-static powder, and I'm just applying that clear embossing powder. So that's already done. So on the back, I'm adding again that mounting tape, the foam mounting tape, to add some dimension. And again, I'm going back in my MISTI. I removed that mouse pad, so I have a little bit more depth, so I can position those nicely. So that one's done too. I'm just adhering it onto my black note card. So we have those three. And for a last touch, I'm just adding some of the black Nuvo drops. So for now, I'll set those aside to dry. And I'm moving on to my fourth and last card. And here, I just want to have that sentiment a little bit more condensed and overlapping. So I'm first stamping the so much that will kind of appear up front. And then I embossed it with clear embossing powder. Then I'm trimming a little piece of sticky note, the length and the height of the sentiment. So I'm just masking that sentiment. And then I'll stamp that thank you on top of it. And that will appear. So there I had some black stuff, my embossing powder from the Nuvo drops that I accidentally put it in. So I'm repeating the process. So I'm positioning that thank you. Now here I noticed that I need to trim that a little bit more. So I'm going back. I think that looks pretty good almost. So I think that's pretty good. So I'll apply that embossing body, the anti-static powder, ink my stamp. And I'll stamp on top. I think that looks pretty good, so I'm removing my panel from the MISTI. And I'll apply some clear embossing powder, but before removing that, a little sticky note from the panel. And you see that so much appears that it's up front, and the thank you kind of looks behind. And then I'm just heat setting that. And then we'll be ready to adhere our panel onto my note card. But before that, I decided to die cut it using the rectangle infinity dies to have a little bit smaller panel, so that black note card is more visible and gives more contrast. And I'm using some fan foam to pop it up and add some dimension. So again, as finishing touch, I'm adding a few Nuvo drops on 3 on each side, and with that we are finished. So here's a quick view of all the cards we created today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my blog and to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any future videos, and you keep up to date with everything that I'm creating. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in another video. Bye!